Welcome to my channel. My name is Chris, and today we're going to be comparing Gabrielle by Chanel and Joy by Christian Dior. So I've got both of these fragrances here, and let's see which one is the one for you. You know, these are both launched around similar times. I remember that Gabrielle Chanel was launched first, and then I remember working for Dior at the time, and there was this big hype. We were made to sign NDA contracts and stuff like that back then as to not speaking about the name. It has since been released, obviously, and we were able to talk about it since then. But I remember there was a big hype around this one. It was the first time that both of these houses were launching a new name for a new fragrance. Typically we got flankers. So we got like Coco or Coco Mademoiselle Intense. We got Coco Mademoiselle Privé. We got J'adore. We got Miss Dior, Dior Addict. All of these fragrances have been done before, and they were just flankers upon flankers upon flankers. And these two were the first new nameplates that the houses were introducing. So they were very exciting. I remember that working for Dior. I don't know if anyone has seen the commercial, the original one with the girl from Twilight. She had like toilet paper. That's what people used to say it was, toilet paper, and she was running and stuff like that. And Jennifer Lawrence was the spokesmodel for this fragrance. I don't think it was a good fit, but anywho, not what we're here for. We are here to compare the fragrances to see which one is the one that you would get and which one would be worth it for you. So we're going to start off by packaging to see which one is a little bit better and to see which one is worth the price. So the first one we have here, like I said, is Gabrielle Chanel. This is what the bottle looks like. It is a very nice, simple, classic bottle. It is a little bit different to what they've done with like number 5 and Coco Mademoiselle. They did a whole new different bottle for this fragrance line. They kind of stuck a little bit to it. They kind of did a hybrid of Bleu de Chanel, and then they did a hybrid of the cut crystal type of look. And then we did get a champagne gold top. Very nice. It's very cheap, if you ask me. Quite frankly, Chanel does get away with having the bare minimum, and everyone thinks it's beautiful. While I agree that the bottle itself is not a bad design, we do have elements like this where the bottle top is wobbly, it's not magnetic, it's pressurized. The glass is very, very thin, so if you were to drop this, it would shatter into a million pieces instantly. There are a lot of little things like that that could be improved that would make this fragrance a lot nicer and more mass appealing, and it would make you feel like, oh my god, I'm spending money on something that is great quality, that the juice is good, that I'm going to treasure this bottle and maybe use it as decoration, because some people do that. And this is not one that would be one this would not be one that you would want to do that with. Like I said, none of the Chanel bottles tend to really have a very sturdy lid. You can hold it from the top, just so you do know, but it's not one that is the best quality, as none of the Chanel fragrances are. Now let's go over to Joy. I honestly thought that this was the laziest bottle I have ever seen when I worked for Dior. It essentially looks like they had a lot of Sauvage bottles in a warehouse, and they were like, how do we make this work? Let's not paint them blue. Let's leave them clear, and then hot stamp a front to it. Because if you don't know how bottles are manufactured, they're manufactured from two pieces. So if you actually can see, there you are, that seam there is where they marry the front and the back. So they must have had a ton of backs from Sauvage back here that were not painted, obviously. And then they just created a front part and slapped it on and put this lid on it. I think it's very lazy. It's not done very well. But it is a lot more sturdy, so it is a heavier glass. It is going to have a nicer lid. In fact, the lid is magnetic, which is nice. So if you decide to move it around, it will come back, aligning that CD logo up there. The bottle itself is, like I said, very lazy. You do get the name that is raised on the actual bottle itself, and there's a Dior logo there. The lid is supposed to represent the haute couture savoir-faire, so the thread that they actually use to construct clothing for the House of Dior. So that's a little cute little gesture. I still think it's a very lazy looking bottle, but hey, beggars can't be choosers. So now let's get into smell and spray. So the sprayer on this one is fairly nice. It's not going to be anything super crazy, not something super overwhelming. And the fragrance itself, I really I have a hard time with it because I do like it. I do think it's nice perfume overall. I think that it's clean. It's supposed to represent what it's supposed to represent, essentially. So, if you don't know much about the House of Chanel, her name was not Coco, as everyone calls her. That was her nickname that she pretended that her dad gave her. She was an orphan. But Gabrielle, which is Coco, grew up in an orphanage, and this is supposed to represent the woman before Coco. So, the woman before she got all these big friendships, all these aristocrats around here, and she was still that orphan child that had a lot of insecurities that was abandoned by her father. And while I do like that there is a sense of purity in this fragrance, it is clean, it is bright, it is vibrant, but it's still a little old school. And it's very true to the actual Chanel clientele, which the Chanel clientele is going to be a little bit more youthful, but they're going to be a little bit more grown up at the same time. So you can see by going into a Chanel boutique, all the women are dressed up with those nice Chanel bags, but they're a little bit more sophisticated, a little bit more mature. They're not like childish for the most part. There's always the exception to the rule. So definitely does represent the House of Chanel, but it's not anything super groundbreaking. Like whenever we got Coco Mademoiselle back in 2001, Coco Mademoiselle was revolutionary. That fragrance was way ahead of its time and it's still here. This is kind of one of those fragrances like Allure by Chanel, the women's one. It's a little bland, and I don't know if it's going to last the test of time, but it is certainly a good fragrance that does represent what it's supposed to. Now over to Joy. This fragrance wasn't really explained to us what the actual meaning was behind the name. It was really weird because, like I said, Jennifer Lawrence was the model or the spokesmodel for this fragrance, and she did that thing where she spits water out in the commercial. Anywho, very nice commercial, done very well, very expensive, very classic, but I just don't like her as a spokesmodel for the perfume. I don't think she fits in with the House of Dior, but this fragrance, like I said, is supposed to represent joy. When I worked for this brand, that's all we got, that it was supposed to represent joy, happiness in a bottle. And I think that Dior tried to capitalize on Jean Patu's fragrance, which was also named Joy at the time. And that fragrance had this like pedigree, this je ne sais quoi that was so mysterious because it was so expensive for the time. And I don't know if they still manufacture that fragrance, but it's kind of like disappeared since. And I kind of feel like this is a reason for that. I don't really get this one. There was a lot of things that could have been taken into account from Dior's past, the house codes, and the history that could have been in a fragrance. We could have done something that was reminiscent of his childhood home in Granville, something that was different. And while this is nice, it's not a bad fragrance. It's nothing super unique. I think that they kind of played it safe for Francois Dimachy, the creator of this fragrance, kind of played it safe. They kind of saw the success that Sauvage had because it was so bland and so generic, but it had these elements that were likable, mass market, and they were like, let's do that for women's. And this is what we got. It was a very lazy interpretation of a fragrance. It's nothing to write home about. At least J'adore is a little old at this point, but when it came out, it was just groundbreaking for the time because it was soft, it was clean, it was floral. And Joy is just a little lazy. The notes on this are going to be white musk, grass rose, jasmine, mandarin orange, patchouli, bergamot, cedarwood, as well as sandalwood. So again, all of those notes are a little bit meh. There's nothing in here that is like, wow, this is what is making this fragrance, lift and be, super different. If you're gonna ask me which one I find a little bit more unique, I would definitely have to give it to Chanel's Gabrielle because it does have that element of surprise. Although it is Chanel, it does have a cleaner, and it does represent the house of Chanel. And I think this is important to keep in mind with these fashion houses. They're not only releasing a perfume to sell it. If you want a perfume that's not going to represent the house, and go to Victoria's Secret. But these are supposed to represent the houses that they are launched under. And I feel like this one is respectful. It does it well. It does represent Gabrielle Chanel. It does represent the House of Chanel prior to her big, stardom. While this one doesn't have anything to do with Mr. Dior. I really don't get it. I think that it's a lazy, like I said, interpretation of a fragrance that they wanted to get something that was going to be a cash cow. I don't know. I stopped working with Dior, or I stopped working for Dior right when this fragrance was launched, or right after this fragrance was launched, I should say. And I heard that it wasn't a big seller. I mean, they did launch a flanker, but I don't know. I really don't know. I would definitely have to give this one to Gabrielle Chanel because it is a little bit more unique. Although it's not the most unique, don't get me wrong. It's not going to be something that you're going to be like, wow, this is completely different. I've never smelled anything like it, but it is going to be a lot more unique than its main rival and competitor, which is this guy here. This is definitely a likable scent. So if you want something that's going to be clean, fresh, floral, that's going to be a little bit more versatile, I would certainly say that this is a good one. While this one is that as well, it is a little bit more mature, like I said, a little bit more dressed up. So they are very similar in a lot of aspects, but in regards to which one's a lot more creative, I would definitely have to say Gabrielle Chanel. Just so you do know, both of these are 100 ml bottles and they are both 160 US dollars for 3.4 ounces, which is pretty expensive. If you're asking me that, which one you should get out of these two because you're set in your mind, I would say that if you are a casual type of girl that wants a fresh, flirty type of fragrance that's floral, I would certainly say to get this one. And I would say that if you are a girl or woman that is more sophisticated, more dressed up, that's more polished, it takes a little bit more care, before leaving the door, I would certainly say to get Gabrielle Chanel as it might represent you a little bit better. But there's no rules to fragrances. I think that you should get whatever your heart wants and your nose likes. And definitely these two are not the best launches, I would say, but because they are part of their brands, they're going to be successful regardless. So definitely let me know what your guys' thoughts on this fragrance are. Comment down below which one is your favorite. Also let me know what other fragrances you'd like to see on this channel. And give the video a thumbs up if you liked today's video. And consider subscribing for more fragrance related content. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.